Welcome to the Sharon Fitzmaurice podcast. This podcast is brought to you in association with Retreats Ireland. And if you would like to check out my upcoming events or the work that I do, please check out SharonFitzmauriceMindfulness.com. So my guest today is Danielle Serpico. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. She's the founder of the BlackBelt MasterMind ACADEMY. And Danielle started her entrepreneurial journey at 16 years of age. And by 19, she already had established the first of her three restaurants. But in 2009, life threw her a curveball and she pivoted with it into deep self-development and mastering the art of self-sovereignty. What an introduction to Danielle. You are very welcome.
I'm so delighted to be here with you, Sharon.
Oh, thank you. And you're coming all the way from Rome. And that brings us to your beautiful name. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Serpico.
You are said, Pico, yes.
Serpico. And I love that. So you're Italian. You are obviously half Italian and you're in Rome at the moment. So it's obviously a place that you spend a lot of time in.
Yes.
How has being half Italian, half Irish made or created this personality that is Danielle, not just in her person, but professionally as well?
That's a great question. I love being half Italian. I'm half Irish, half Italian. My mum's from Dublin and my father's from Rome. So hence I come back and forth a lot because my parents are divorced a long time. And it's funny how something that you think is which can at one point in your life be very traumatic and very difficult. Like, that was a lot of the reason why I got into self-development was because of my parents, my childhood, and them splitting. I lived in Rome when I was very young, but it's turned out to be a great, wonderful blessing. I feel such an affinity. I'm here looking out on a beautiful view of Rome city, and there's a real nostalgia every time I come back to Rome, and I come back here a lot. I'm actually on a Roman retreat with a client of mine, and we're doing a bit of work. And I believe that it's all interrelated because the Romans know how, Italians know how to communicate. And a lot of what I talk about is communication and passion, and how to communicate to the subconscious so that we get better results in our life, and whether it's financially or for love or for more joy. The Italians are passionate about living, and everything they do, whether it's food, whether it's making love, or creating. I mean, Rome is the eternal city. It's Italy is known for its incredible creations and what is brought into being. So the Italians are very passionate. So I love the fact that I have that heritage, and I totally embrace that now.
That's so beautiful. And I love the way you talk about the passion of it. Because, yes, when we've been to Italy or we've met Italians that have, lived and worked in Ireland, and it is the speaking with the hands and the whole body is speaking. And it is. And Irish people sometimes can be a little bit more conservative and, they're nearly embarrassed to be passionate, And when you hear about the Italians, making love, but talking about making love is just as beautiful, isn't it? So I love that. So in a way, and I love that you said that, that what seemed as this awful thing when you were younger, because it does affect us, obviously, in childhood, what happens in our families and how it brought you on that journey of self-development within yourself. But looking back now, I suppose that's the beauty of being wiser with age, isn't it, Danielle? It's looking back and saying, God, I was, at 16 years of age, my world was falling apart or younger, and I thought I'd never get through it. And looking where I am now, and it's something I feel people don't do enough of, Danielle. They get stuck in the old stories and they continue to tell themselves, oh, well, I had an awful time and it was the worst time of my life. And you're going, but you're not there any longer. You're here.
Exactly, 100%. One of the things that You probably are aware my brand is the Black Belt Mastermind, and it's that because I was a black belt. I am a black belt, literally,
Yeah.
but it was more about when I went on a self-development journey. It was more about becoming the black belt of your mind,
Mm.
of really inside. And you know what as again what seemed like such a my focus was all in the past as a child about blaming my parents, blaming my father because I didn't see him for many years when I after my parents split up. It was all about blaming and saying you're responsible, and all my focus was gone on the negative. So when I got into self-development, um, after a big life change, I kind of like, which was during the recession when I lost everything in 2009, and I went bankrupt and lost everything, my home and everything. And that's when I got into self development. And I realized that it's all about the direction we look at. So I have an exercise in my book, The BlackBelt Mastermind, which is called the blame game. And if you're going to blame somebody, because I used to blame my dad for many years, I'd say it's your fault. You know, in my head, I was constantly, it's my dad's fault that I'm insecure. It's my dad's fault that I have no self worth. It's my dad's fault that I've now gone bankrupt and bust. But if I'm going to blame him for that, then I've got to blame him for everything. I can't just blame him for the things that it's convenient for me to blame him for. So I realized, well, then I've also got to blame him for the fact that I've come out to the side, that I'm strong, that I have strength, that I have empathy, that I have compassion, that I have understanding, that I've got into all the things that I've now done. I've also got to blame him for the good stuff. I can't just blame somebody for the bad stuff.
Mm.
So it was a whole shift in perspective. And I believe that when we look at things from fresh eyes, from a different perspective, it's amazing what can open up for us.
I love that because you do hear a lot of people, and I did it myself in the past, obviously through my own childhood trauma, and it was the blame, and they made me like this, and I'm here because of them, and the same things you would have said, I'm insecure, I have no confidence. And then I realized, well, there's many other things that I am. So again, like you, for me, it was kind of taking responsibility for my own life, Danielle. It was like if I continue to give the power and the blame away to somebody else, then I'm controlled all of my life in my mind. So it's not mine to choose to make those choices every day. And that was one of the biggest realizations I had. You have a choice every day, Sharon, to choose how you think, what you say, how you put yourself out there. And I broke it down and I kept it very simple. And for me, it was, I'm not my mind. I kept telling myself that because years my mind controlled me. Because that's why I love your work. You're saying really is that we have, every one of us have the potential, don't we, inside of us? And you are proof of that, Danielle, every single day. And even saying, I'm on a Roman retreat with one of my clients. I mean, did you ever imagine when you look back to when you were broke to think I'd be on a Roman retreat with a client?
No, I mean, it's amazing. And I like it is amazing. And I do really believe that I believe we are potential. We are unleashed potential. All of us, that is what we are. We are the creators. So yeah, like it is quite phenomenal to be sitting here. And as I said, my view is spectacular. The blue sky now is cold, but it's a beautiful blue sky over all the Roman. We're up in a penthouse up on the fifth floor,
Mm.
and it's I would never have believed it. I mean, 15 years ago, I would never believed I was going to be a coach. I would never believe that I would be have this life. I would never believe that I would feel the way I would feel. I would never believe that I would have rekindled my relationship with my dad. I'm going to be meeting them tonight for pizza. I would not have, I would never have believed it. So life can change in an instant. The question is, are you open? Are you
Mm.
open to change? And are you open to being wrong? Are you open to being wrong about what you think and what you are stuck in, those old beliefs? If you open yourself up to being wrong, your world is your oyster or
Mm.
your pizza.
Yeah, I love it. And I suppose even saying that, are you open? So for people that are listening, how can you help them just even, because sometimes for me, it's like these little seeds, when I hear you speaking or other people that I admire, they inspire me and there's little seeds constantly being planted in my mind. And I go, That's really interesting. I like the way that sounds, and it has this feeling inside of me. So when I get that feeling of, "Oh, that's really exciting, I'm kind of more curious about that," I know then that my energy is moving towards it, but it's still my choice to take steps towards, watering and nurturing that seed within myself. But if some of our listeners are out there today and they're going, "Oh, sure, it's grand for ye now, sure, you have it all sorted." And I said, "We're still learning every day." But how can they question themselves right
Mm.
now, just listening to you on the podcast? What one or two questions would you give them to ask themselves?
It's like, I mean, again, what you're saying is such a great question, and everything you're saying is like, it's literally the conversations that I have all the time. And I get it because I've been at the place where I was very skeptic. I was very negative. I was a non-believer in any of this. I did not believe in positive thinking. I still don't believe in
Yeah.
positive thinking. I believe in practical, beneficial thinking. And a lot of the time, the negative stuff. So, your question is, okay, how do we open ourselves up
Mm.
to receive and to a new approach to life, to receiving more, or open ourselves up to new opportunities? Is the first thing is you've got to allow yourself to be open to be wrong. A lot of people say, "Oh, I am," but they're not. And it is fighting that instinct. It's fighting the natural instinct to want to be right, because we have something that's called confirmation bias. And we want to be right because it makes us feel safe. So we've got to start questioning when we want to be right. So, like, for example, to give you a practical example, I would have a lot of people that might come to me and say, "Oh, I have a terrible relationship with my husband." And I might say, "Okay, tell me about it." And we're having a conversation. And they're saying, "Well, he's never affectionate to me. He just never shows me any affection." And I was only the other night, I was out with my girlfriend, and we had a foursome, not that kind of foursome,
Yeah.
but
Even if you are in Italy.
in Italy, anything goes. No, it's not that type of Roman holiday. But we were together, and like, the two couples, and we were having a beer, and like I told you, like, he was going to be on affection. Didn't I tell you so? Didn't I tell you so? Did you see how he did this or didn't do that and was this way? And "I told you so" are some of our, especially Irish people, our favorite words. So what I would suggest is, one thing, and this is probably one of the first exercises I did. I was very negative, but I started to look to prove myself wrong about the negative things. You've got to make a decision. You've got to say, because a belief is a belief, whether you believe that the world is against you or not. It's simply a belief. Like, people say, "Oh, I don't believe in fluffy stuff," but you're believing in something which is not true. Like, as in the sense of, a belief is simply a thought that you've had over and over again. So whether you believe in a positive way that makes you feel better to take action, or whether you believe in a negative way that leads you to not do the stuff, they're both simply beliefs. So it's your choice. So the first thing I would say is question those beliefs. And when you notice yourself wanting to be right, because if we want to be right about something, your brain is going to look for the evidence to prove you right, to make you feel safe in the familiar, because it wants the familiar. So you've got to look, notice. It's an awareness. It's a lot of this is about becoming aware of what you were previously unaware about. So you've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So I would say, notice when you're looking to prove yourself right about things that are not good for you, and challenge them then and say, "Do I know this for certain? Can I be 100% certain of this? Is there evidence of the contrary out there?" So when we start looking for the opposite, we'll get more of that. But it really is a decision, and it's a decision to be able to sit with a moment of uncomfortableness. Like, one of my clients this morning was telling me she went into the Irish Sea, and for a moment it's going to be cold, but then it warms up, and we cannot grow, we cannot expand unless we're comfortable with getting uncomfortable, at least for a moment, and then things get better.
I love that. And it's a beautiful example as well of getting in the sea, because the thought of it isn't it? It's the thought of it. Oh, geez, I could never get into the sea. It's freezing. And I think about myself, it's anytime, even when you're on holidays, you know it's going to be cold, but you know you'll get in. It's cold for a moment. As you said, you get out and you're exhilarated and you're so proud of yourself for doing what was uncomfortable. Isn't it true? Yeah. And it also, when you're speaking there, it brings me back to my own mindfulness practice and how sitting and observing without judgment of what those thoughts are, those feelings are. And it was one of the things that really helped me, Danielle, as well, to see, Jesus, sure, that thought isn't real. Or, you know, that's just a fleeting thought within your mind. But again, how we can get attached to them. So I love that exercise to look at what you were thinking, but nearly saying, can you prove yourself wrong in that belief? Yeah,
100%.
beliefs are huge, aren't they? And the pattern of the affirming those beliefs to ourselves and to others. And again, that what you said is really important. It's proving that we're right. You know, why is it a defense thing? Is it an insecurity thing that we need to be right? So again, you'll hear people having a discussion and it may turn into an argument because everybody wants to be right. What is wrong with being wrong?
Exactly. I mean, we can't grow unless we're wrong. Like
Mm,
I like to say it's also right to be wrong, something I kind of always spout. But like, I mean, we cannot expand. We've got to be excited about being wrong, about the negative things, right? Because then we've grown and we've learned. It's like, oh my God, I was wrong about that. Wow, this is amazing. I was wrong about that. Isn't this incredible? Then our
mm,
world opens up. So a lot of it is like, as we're saying, like we're on the same page. A belief is simply a thought. It doesn't make it real. It only feels real.
mm,
It feels real because we've thought that thought over and over again, and the neural pathway has grown, and then hence the feeling has grown. So when you start thinking a new thought, it doesn't feel as believable because it's only a weak little neural pathway. But the more you repeat it and think that thought, the stronger it's going to get. So it's like walking down one path, and that path is you've worn a path because you've gone down it so many times. So it's comfortable, it's easy to walk down that path. And if you tread lightly on another path, sure, there'll be little imprints, but if you don't go down that path again, that path will never strengthen. But if you keep going down the other path, eventually you'll wear a proper solid path, and the other path will grow over. So it's a lot of it is we can't do two things at once. So it's the direction. So I really got this early on that a lot of people hear this stuff but they don't actually take action. I took action because I was really simple.
mm,
Like, I was really, really like, I wanted it easy, I wanted it simple, I was not into fluff, I wanted just practically what to do, make me feel better, I feel like ending it all, that's how I felt.
mm,
And I wanted something practical. And I understood logically that we can't think or move in two directions at once. So if I want to move away from that direction, the negative direction, let me just start focusing more in the positive direction. That's not fluff. It's not just wishy-washy positive thinking. It's practical. It makes sense. And then you start reinforcing that. And the more I did that, the more I became inclined to one move in that direction. My energy, my thoughts, my process. It doesn't mean that I don't obviously go to the negative side,
mm,
but it means that I was more inclined to, and also I'm more open to it. And then hence I'm more receptive to it. So I noticed that more stuff
mm.
started being shown to me because I was more receptive to it. And so hence I seen more, I experienced more came to me. And that's how money, love, everything started coming because it wasn't hocus pocus. It was because I could see it because I was looking for it.
Mm. It's those actionable steps, isn't it, as well? But, and again, I love that you said you like simple things because I would always say, keep it simple, stop getting into this huge out here, you don't understand it. Come back to you and what feels right in that choice in that moment and take that actionable step today, and it may feel a little bit uncomfortable, but you still can go, it's too bad. I think I can go another little bit further.
Yeah.
And that brings me, when you were talking there and you said, you wanted to end it all, things were so bad for you. And was it that you went looking for this journey into self-development, or did it just kind of appear in front of you, but you kind of saw it from a distance and said, maybe, I'm not sure? Or what way did it show up in your life, Danielle?
I wasn't looking for it. As I said, I had three restaurants and a gift shop, and in 2009, with the crash of the Celtic Tiger, to give you the short version, I ended up closing my restaurants. I fought for about 6 years to try and keep my home, and eventually in 2016, I had to hand back my home, and I was destitute. I had nothing, right, and I was really on the edge,
Mm.
really, really close. And as I said, I realized that had been a black belt, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to give life one last shot, and I'm going to become the black belt inside. I'm going to embody what a black belt is, not just say I'm a black belt. I'm going to embody the ethos of it. So that's what I kind of made a decision, and I picked up a few books completely by coincidence, or not.
Mm-hmm.
No, or they were sent to me in a certain order. And I read three different books. The Power of Now was the first book I read by Eckhart Tolle, and that had an impression. And again, I like to really synopsize. I like to keep it really simple, right?
Mm.
And that taught me, that book, I was a sponge. I had no conception, I had no preconception about self-development. So I wasn't all kind of, oh no, I was just like open. I was just save me, fix me, sort me, make me feel better. I needed help. And I was like a sponge, and the words popped out. And what popped out to me was, if you're not in the past, if you're not in the future, and you're just here in this moment, you can't feel bad. So that really helped me start to learn, oh my God, yeah, if I'm not thinking about something in the past, not thinking about the future, and if I just stay in this moment, stay in this moment, stay in this moment, then for that moment, at least I can find my bearings and start to breathe and feel safe again. So I read that. Then I read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And that taught me, it was no coincidences, right? And that taught me that between every thought, there's a space, right? Between the stimulus and a response, there's a space. And in that space, we have a choice about how we react, how we speak, how we do what we do. So that was really powerful. So it was kind of like next step. It was like, okay, be present, just breathe, just find yourself again, get grounded. And then the next book was kind of like, okay, I have a choice here. And then the next book I came across was Paul McKenna. I think I don't know, something to make your life great or something like that. And I started to use the techniques practically, Paul McKenna, the hypnotist. And then I looked into him, and I found out he'd been taught by a guy called Richard Bandler, and I bought one of his books. And Richard Bandler is the co-creator of NLP, and he was the guy who taught Tony Robbins, Paul McKenna, and all of these guys. So I started reading Richard Bandler's book, and I started to understand that we are not our mind, that our mind is a wonderful computer, but we are not. We are something bigger, the spirit, the soul, whatever we want to call ourselves, but we're not just our brain. And we are the ones that can take back control of the ship, so to speak. And it led me to, long story short, it led me to going and training with Richard Bandler and Paul McKenna and all these people, completely for me, completely for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
For me to feel better. And it did start to make me feel better. And by osmosis, by rippling out how I communicated, how I spoke, by me looking for good stuff, learning to direct my focus, different people came into my world. Love came in. My father came back into my world. And then people started coming in, and I started doing this work. I mean, I had a group called the Bridget Jones Club for a year. And I had over 100 Bridgets, and it was all about taking the big knickers off and taking off the slippers and putting the high heels and getting back out in life and being free and, that kind of stuff. And I coached them all for free. I wasn't even aware I was becoming a coach. And that's the long story short. And then one day I realized, you know what, this could be my business. And I had been working as a restaurant manager after my restaurants closed. I'd got a job working in Dublin at a beautiful, fabulous restaurant called Cornucopia, a vegetarian restaurant. And I was managing it there, and the owner there is incredible. And we got on really well, and she was very accommodating. And her daughter was coming up the ranks to take over from her. So I was kind of coaching, mentoring her to become the manager. And as she was becoming the manager, I was stepping back. So the universe just kind of worked really well for me. And I worked less as the manager and let her take over more, and I stepped more and more into coaching and it becoming my business. And soon enough, there it was.
Wow. Oh my God, you're a woman after my own heart. And everything you're saying. And again, all of that beautiful synchronicity, even in the books arriving. And I'm not sure what you think about this. But I think sometimes when we're at our lowest, we've nothing else to lose. We've only something to gain. But even the awareness of that, we may not have it at the time. I think back to myself at my lowest point, and I think, was I aware that I had anything to gain? I'm not sure. But I knew I wanted to live differently and not the same way I was living, because it obviously didn't serve me, because I didn't want to carry all of the pain like you any longer.
Yeah.
And when you've lost everything else, there's kind of only one way to go, isn't there, after that? And that's the choice. So I love when you keep talking about choices, because for me, I know I have friends and they say, well, just shut up about choices. And I'm going, but we have a choice. In every moment, in every day, in every interaction, we have a choice. Might not always make the right one, but that's okay. We learn from those. So I love what you're saying, that the beautiful synchronicities of absorbing the information like a sponge, because we need to be fed when we're that low, don't we? We need information to fill our mind so that all of the other stuff that has overwhelmed us and is clouded, our focus and our vision and our feeling of who we are, we need to be fed. It's like good food in Italy. It's like, I need it. And when you eat it, you go, oh my God, that was the nicest meal I ever had, even though you might have had a lovely one a week ago. But it's
Yeah.
in the moment, isn't it? That feeling, that reading, that feeding of information to yourself. And then you took those steps and saying, well, I'm just going to learn a little bit more. I'm going to train in this, as you said, for yourself. Because for me, I think sometimes we have to do things for ourselves because it's the lived experience, Danielle. Do you agree?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, it's funny. I've been in the customer service industry all my life, like with restaurants, etc. And I'd have so many staff that would be like, for example, studying psychology and things like that. And I'd be saying to them, why are you doing it? And they say, oh, well, I heard it's good money and that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of like, and then, or some of them might say, okay, because I like people. And then they'd be terrible in customer service. And I'd be kind of, well, like you say, you like people, you say you want to, this is the best lesson that you can get, in customer service, about learning patience, about reading people, understanding people, negotiating, leading people, managing people, so I believe experience
Mhm.
definitely trumps information.
Yes.
Experience every time. And I believe the most passionate and most effective coaches are people who have been through it. People that have no idea often say, oh, she's not, she's a messed up therapist, for example.
Yes.
Right. She's messed up herself. What would she know about? Because but they're the people that are most aware of
Mhm.
what works, what doesn't work. I know what worked for me. Categorically, I know what brought me from a very narrow-minded space and being very negative about life and being very victim mentality. Even though I appeared confident, I had 3 restaurants and a gift shop. I appeared confident, but I had no self-worth. My self-worth was on the floor. And, I could put on an act, but I really believed I was unlovable. I believed I was the most stupid. I believed I was the most worthless person on the planet. And it's only in, from going to that rock bottom and being like, yeah, like a sponge. I couldn't have been emptier. So
Mhm.
I was like a vessel kind of going, I need filling. Like,
Yeah.
just I'm open to anything right now. So yeah, it's
Mm.
it's it's a long journey.
You know what? And it's a beautiful journey as well, and I know there's people and they're listening and they may be at that place where they feel like they've nothing, and it's just as you've described, no self-worth, no confidence, even though they may appear, as I said, it's the mask we hide behind, isn't it? But inside we're crumbling away and pretending to everybody else, because again, we have that shame, don't we? That, oh, I have my businesses or I'm doing this work, and but behind it I'm falling apart. And where they are right now, and maybe they're listening and going, well, maybe there is a chance for me. And again, I'd say every day is a chance, isn't it, to begin again, wherever you're at. And sometimes it's just listening, as you're listening now to Danielle, like I have listened, like reading those books. It's picking up something and saying, well, let me just feed my mind with something else. Let me feed myself with a different way of thinking and feeling just for this book or this program or this talk or this podcast, and just see how I feel afterwards. That is the opening up. But when you have been so empty and exactly know where you are, what comes towards you, and this is something, Danielle, I'd like to ask you. You know, the way we hear, and obviously I work with energy as well, and people say, oh, you only attract what you feel or whatever they are out there. And I'll go, I think we attract what we deserve. And somewhere inside of my beautiful little young soul, there was a little part of my spirit that was shouting out, you deserve more. You deserve to go out there and live the best life. But my mind didn't believe it. So I had to start listening inside of myself. And that's where the awareness inside of going. And the minute I started thinking, maybe, just maybe, like you said, all of these beautiful synchronicities started coming towards me. And I'm saying it's just exactly what you're saying. And that's why I said, I love this. It's like you're mirroring my thoughts and feelings for years, even in your story, even though the circumstances and situations might be different. But if anyone else is listening here, no matter what your story is, I'm sure there's parts and elements of Danielle's story that can resonate with you. And if you see Danielle talking so openly, which I love because I'm the same as myself, it just falls out of my mouth, Danielle, straight out. This is where I've come from and this is who I am now. And I'm still learning and growing and I'm still open. And that's the beauty of your sharing here today, is the openness to maybe feel or think something differently. If you just gave yourself that option right now, today, tomorrow, whenever you hear this podcast, just see what that feels like.
Absolutely, 100%. We're always growing. We never stop.
Yeah.
And people say to me, "Oh, how do I stop a feeling, or how do I get rid of that feeling?" Or or they say things like, "Oh, I felt bad again, and I've done all this self-development work, and how come I felt bad about it?" And I said, "Did you expect never to feel bad again?"
Yeah.
Like, like we put so much pressure on ourselves, all this, all or nothing. We're human beings. We're always going to have uncomfortable feelings. Uncomfortable, unpleasant feelings are going to come into our body, into our mind, and our soul. We're going to feel those feelings, but it's how long do we want to stay in those feelings? So something I say a lot is, people ask me, "Oh, how did you get so positive and get rid of all the negative feelings?" And I say I didn't. But what I learned to do is I'm able now to be more in the beneficial feelings than I was in the past. And I'm able to lead myself out of the unbeneficial feelings much faster. So whereas 15 years ago, I might have spent 80% of my life in unbeneficial feelings and 20% in nice feelings. Now maybe the scale is more 80% in good feelings and 20% not so comfortable feelings. And I think that's a good ratio. It's never about getting rid of them. So if anyone's listening to this and says, "Oh, I've done so much self-development work, I've done this, or I've gone to this person, or blah, 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 and how come I still feel bad when I think of X, Y, and Z?" Maybe ask yourself a different question. Maybe ask yourself, well, how can I change this feeling faster than I used to be able to? Can I change this feeling? Am I changing this feeling faster? Am I moving through this faster than I used to be? So, and I think that's very practical. So I hope that's helpful.
Oh, it is. I'm smiling because even the words you use, moving through, I always say that as well. I'm moving through this feeling. And it just
Yeah.
something you said as well, negative feelings or negative thoughts, I'll say they're just energy in motion and they just need to move through us. And in that awareness, and there's that lovely word that I love as well, the awareness of it, it makes me realize when I am in that negative thought process or that negative feeling, I'm so aware of it now, that it doesn't overwhelm or take 3 hours to come out of it. It's kind of like, oh, that's there. And sometimes I will try and analyze why, and other times I go, but it's okay that it's there. It doesn't, as you said, we're not going around, everything in the world is fabulous today, because we are human and we are experiencing challenges, not just in our own lives, but people around us that we love as well. So, Danielle, you're just this beautiful, beautiful. It's like echoes in my mind and heart when you speak. I love it.
Yeah, and we'd be crazy if we were always we'd be actually like, we wouldn't be normal people. Well, I don't know if that they're great words, but like in the sense of like we're three-dimensional beings. We have a front and we have a back, and the same with that, we have all feelings. And if we only had positive, feel-good feelings, we would be very weird creatures,
Yeah.
and we wouldn't be able to experience the positive feelings because we wouldn't know the opposite. So every feeling has its reason. A lot of people come to me and they say, oh, I'd like to get rid of fear, or I'd like to get rid of sadness. And I always say, well, really? You really want to get rid of it? Like, because I mean, then you'll never be able to feel joy. Then you'll never be able to feel safe. We can't have one without the other. It's a
balance.
Balance in life, isn't it?
I love it. So, being so many beautiful things in your life, what is the one thing, Danielle, that you're really so proud of?
Lovely question. What is the one thing I'm so proud of? And okay, I'm going to say this. That's made me emotional because I'm here.
Oh,
It actually has made me. I'm here with a beautiful woman in the next room who I'm working with. I'm proud of me. And I don't mean that from an arrogant sense, because I'm proud of the fact that I started looking at life and being able to see the beauty in other people. And I didn't see that for a long, long time. And it took me up till 36 years of life, when I nearly took my life, to realize how much beauty there is in life and how much beauty there is in people. So I'm actually quite proud of myself, and I can say this, I love myself, not from a sense of arrogance, but I'm proud of the beauty within me, because I couldn't see the beauty in others if I couldn't see the beauty that I'd never seen in me for such a long time. So you made me emotional with that question.
oh. And again, I think it's something that we don't do often enough. You know, we might put out there that we do this and do that and we can help you and everything else, but just like that, and I didn't mean to catch you on the hop, but I just think if you have so many achievements in your life and you're still achieving such great things, and your clients are achieving great things through your help and support. So it's to look at ourselves, because we are the center of all of that spins around us. And I would constantly come back to myself, Danielle. And some people, they'll be saying, oh, you're great and you do all of this and everything. And we can get lost in it too. And I like to come back to me. That's where I ground myself, and I'll go, what did you do well today, Sharon? What did you do? Did you do something nice for yourself today? And what are you proud of today? Because it's in those daily achievements that I feel the strongest. Sometimes I forget to look at all the big achievements. It's funny, if somebody, like I ask you, send your bio to me for the podcast or whatever. And sometimes I'm writing and going, is that big? It's amazing to see everything, isn't it? But also not forgetting our humble beginnings, and also for you, that's why I love your story, that it took you up until 36 years of age. But that's what I mean. It doesn't matter what age we are, is it, Danielle, to start and to
No.
open yourself up to the beauty that you are, and that people can see in you, but you don't obviously value in yourself maybe at the time.
Oh wow. I mean, there's like, it's never ever. Because there's only this moment. There's
Mm.
only ever this moment. So it doesn't matter what age you are. I mean, I have a 70-year-old man who's now starting his acting career because he's decided, you know what, feck it, life's too short. I'm going to start doing what I want to do, and believe in myself. I have another woman who's, I think she's 68, writing a book. Like it doesn't matter what age you are. It's, like so many people in their 50s, 60s, 70s finding love or whatever it is that you want to do. The moment is now. The moment
Mm.
is now. There's no other moment except for now. There's not the past. There's not, it's just now.
Mm. You're just amazing. So, if anybody wants to jump on after this podcast and start working with you, you have loads of courses, you have 90-day programs, you work with clients one-to-one. You could end up in Rome on a retreat with her eating pizza, looking out at that beautiful view and being as passionate as the Italians are, or finding that passion within yourself, I like to think, no matter where you are in the world.
Yes.
So you are obviously, as we've said, the founder of the Black Belt Mastermind Academy, and thousands of students have been trained by you and qualified under your guidance and tutelage. I love that. And becoming certified NLP practitioners and mastermind coaches, and discovering how, when we know how and where to direct our energy, focus, and words, our world can truly expand. I love that. I love it. Every bit of it. And you are the author of two books.
Three.
Three now, excuse me. I was just going to say, because you have now Mastering Your Mind book just launched in 2025. And that's
Yes.
a collaboration of inspiring stories and actionable tools, which I love as well, all of that. There is just so much to you. Radio broadcaster, you were writing, script writing with the Gaiety Theatre. I mean, there's just you radio, and that's obviously where we talk. I was on Dublin City FM with you years ago, where I first connected to you. And again, it was that power of truth, Danielle. And that's why I really admire you. And I look at you as an inspiration in my life, even though we've never physically sat down and had a chat. It's like the books, isn't it, that you read? And there's qualities within a person that you can connect to energetically immediately, whether you've never met or not. And I feel like I've connected with that energy within you. And even as you're talking today, as I said, you're echoing thoughts and feelings within myself, even in our stories of hitting rock bottom, but finding a way to see the beauty in ourselves and value who you are. But the
Yeah.
loveliest part is how you're helping others now. And that is just inspirational. So my hat is off to you, Danielle Serpico.
Vice versa, Sharon. What you're doing is amazing as well because we are the company we keep and we've got to spread those ripples in as many ways as we can.
Absolutely. And I thank you for sharing your beautiful ripples with my listeners today. And I have the most amazing listeners because they come back to me and say, "Oh, Jesus, I love that one. And Jesus, she was mighty. And do you remember when she said that?" And I'm going, "Yes, I was the one talking to her on the other side of the microphone." But it's like they want to tell you how passionate, somebody made them feel about something. And that's the response these conversations can have for another person listening that may never have met me or you, but it may again plant that little seed, and then they will find that way to opening up and seeing what comes their way, or they take that step to moving towards it. And I hope many people move towards you, Danielle, and allow you to support them in them mastering their minds and bringing in the beauty they deserve. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Sharon. It was lovely. You're amazing. Absolutely. It was very, very pleasant conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for making me emotional. I appreciate it. I'll remember it. And yeah, I hope your listeners enjoyed and got something out of this conversation.
Well, I think they definitely will. Danielle Serpico, thank you. I'll put all of Danielle's details in the show notes, and she's all over social media. So I will be sharing little snippets of her beautiful conversation with me. And when you see her tag, please go and follow her, check her out, and let her inspire you even more. Until next time, take care of you.